On July 19th, 1977, the world teacher, the Christ Maitreya, head of the spiritual hierarchy, emerged from his ancient retreat and is now in the modern world. With his disciples, the Masters of the Wisdom, he will inaugurate the new age of synthesis and brotherhood.
Good morning and welcome to our World Teacher Program on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM. Presented by Teresa and David on behalf of Share International New Zealand.
We start our program today with an interesting question and Benjamin Creme's answer about the hierarchy of the Masters of Wisdom and how that relates to democracy. It appeared in Share International magazine in March 1978 and was also featured in Benjamin Creme's first book, The Reappearance of the Christ and the Masters of Wisdom.
The questioner says, a lot of countries today want to practice democracy. How will they take to a hierarchy? Benjamin Creme's answer is as follows.
I have found, especially among the young and politically attuned, democratically oriented young people today, a great resistance to the idea of hierarchy. There is quite a resistance to the idea of the Masters of the Wisdom because of the word hierarchy, even to the word master. Of course, the word master and the word hierarchy do not denote any kind of authority, and what the young today resent very much is authority.
They are born into the world with the ideas of freedom, equality and brotherhood. This is right. This is what hierarchy teaches. And this is what the Christ will teach. But hierarchy is a fact in nature. It is perfectly possible to believe in and demonstrate your belief in equality, brotherhood and liberty, and at the same time to recognize yourself and all others as being at some point on a ladder of evolution.
We are all equal under God, but taking part in a long and apparently endless evolutionary journey. We are all of us at some point on that journey. Some are ahead and some have still very far to go. The Masters have completed the journey. They are at the top of the ladder. They stand at the top and they bend down and hold their hand out to give the next one a hoist up, and he puts his hand down and gives the one below him a hoist up, and so on down and down the ladder until you get to the least evolved.
From the most primitive members of the human race to the Christ and beyond is a hierarchy. There are always those who are more evolved, more advanced. They are not better. They are simply more advanced on the evolutionary path. They are demonstrating more of their potential, which is divine.
As souls, we are all one. On the soul plane, there is no such thing really as an individual soul. There is only an individual aspect of one great oversoul. As that soul incarnates, involves itself in matter, it has started a journey of return to that perfection from which it came.
The soul is perfect. It is a reflection of a perfection, a reflection of the Spirit, the spark of God. We on this physical plane are a reflection of our soul. As that soul incarnates, begins its evolutionary journey, it sets in motion a whole series of events. These make up our successive lives down through the ages.
Over and over again we incarnate and reincarnate in group formation and gradually evolve, gradually demonstrate more and more of our true human, which is also divine, nature, until we become perfect, like the Masters are perfect. Then we stand at the top of the ladder and we are free to go on to the higher worlds, or we can stay behind and help the one below. The Masters who have stayed behind on the earth are doing this. It is a part of their service.
Souls have come into incarnation at different times. The Masters of the Wisdom are where they are because they began before us. The advanced units of humanity today are where they are in relation to others because they began before them. There is inevitably a hierarchy. There is hierarchy in the solar system. The planets themselves are at different stages of evolution. Hierarchy is everywhere in cosmos. There is nothing else, in a sense, but hierarchy.
At the same time, there is no hierarchy because there is no separation. All is one. It is only in manifestation that hierarchy occurs. Out of manifestation, all is one. In relation to the whole, each one is a part of the whole, and an equal part of the whole.
The acorn has all the potential of the whole tree within it, and every little seedling is equal. But there are great oaks and little oaks. Those who are more advanced, being more advanced, have both the right and the responsibility to serve more. They have the potential to serve more. This is what advancement is about.
When that hierarchy is seen to be of a genuinely spiritual nature, people will find that it is not impossible to construct a truly democratic form of government. There is no true democracy today, which at the same time partakes somewhat of the hierarchical mode of relationship.
When men realize the need for guidance on the path of life which leads to perfection, and when man's free will is not, as it never is by hierarchy, infringed, they will gladly accept as normal and right a degree of hierarchical guidance, based on experience and achievement, which today might appear unlikely.
That concludes Benjamin Creme's comments on hierarchy and democracy. And in this next article by him, he elaborates further on this subject and includes the free will aspect of the equation.
Mr. Creme begins by saying that we find it difficult to accept a hierarchical view of life, to accept differences in people. Countries like Holland, Sweden and Norway, for example, which are very democratic, find really distasteful the idea that there is a hierarchy, that there are people who are masters. They always think that the masters tell us what to do.
As I have been at pains to say over the years, the masters are not here to tell us what to do at all. The masters will only advise and teach in the sense of revealing the results of actions. If we do this action, so and so will inevitably result, and if we do that action, then something quite different, probably preferable, will result. Then they leave the choice to us. If we are intelligent, we take their advice.
They illuminate the results of the various actions that we can take. That is an extraordinary bonus to decision making. If you have a master, a teacher, a guide who tells you that if you do this, then such and such will come out of it, or if you do that, then another thing entirely will come out of it, then you can see which way you want to go. It is what you want. You have free will. I cannot overemphasize that fact.
We really do not understand what free will is. We have an understanding of it in a rather superficial way, but we really do not understand how profound a quality free will is, and why it is so impossible for the masters to infringe it. Free will is the very element of our nature which makes evolution possible. Without free will, we would not evolve.
The masters are in charge of the plan of evolution, and human evolution is part of it. If they were to infringe our free will, which is fundamental to being able to evolve at all, they would put a stop to their own actions and put a stop to all evolution of humanity. So it will never happen. We must become aware of how important that free will is and not see it as something we hold on to, even when we know we are doing the wrong thing.
Someone comes along, a teacher for example, somebody who knows the answers and has been over the same ground and so knows that if you do this then that will happen, and tells you so. If you take it as some infringement of your precious free will, then you are not going to benefit from that quality.
I know people who will not take the fact of the Master's presence in the world even when they are acting openly. They will not take hierarchical guidance because they are democrats, and they will not take any kind of hierarchical supervision if they feel it as supervision over their right to be themselves and their right to be democratic.
It is an obsession with democracy. They have brought democracy rightly to a very high level of importance in our social life, and then they have deified it. They have made it an ideology which puts a barrier around themselves, so they cannot grow. They cannot accept anything higher than their democracy.
That concludes Mr. Creme's article, and now we'll listen to a short extract from Maitreya's message number 12, in which is mentioned the misuse of our divine free will.
Man's problem today, as always, is of his own making. It is not inherent in the plan of God. By the misuse of his divine free will, man has placed his future and that of all the kingdoms in jeopardy. Many today are beginning to realize this. And are taking such steps as they can to avert catastrophe. This is good. But not all men see the danger. Which faces mankind in increasing potency. Time is short indeed for the reconstruction of our world. Along lines more befitting man's true role and purpose. My task is to show you the way, outline the possibilities only, for by man himself must the new world be forged. There are many today who admit the necessity for change, but still resist it. There are many today who see the crumbling of the old and outworn world of the past, but cling to the old forms. But there is a new voice being heard among the nations, the voice of truth, which contains the hope, the promise of the new time. This voice will increasingly make its impress on the minds of men, for it is the voice of God speaking through men.
You're listening to the World Teacher Programme on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM.
This next question appeared in the January-February 2001 double issue of Share International and is applicable to similar events happening today. Question: Your master said, "Never before has so much depended on Maitreya's coming." Are there any circumstances in which hierarchy would infringe our free will in order to move things along, such as making the stock market crash happen quicker?
Benjamin Creme answers, no, that would infringe our free will. What the Master meant when he said, "Never before has so much depended on Maitreya's coming," is that never before in the history of the world has humanity had control of such forces of destruction.
The discovery of atomic fission has altered dramatically the position of humanity. It has given it a destructive power without the discipline and peaceful intentions that would guarantee harmony. In fact, the very opposite. Even the possession of those weapons is done on a system. A group of elite, powerful countries and a number of smaller countries all having them, and others barred from having them.
The US makes a huge song and dance about North Korea's atomic facility. But why should it be excluded? Why should America, Russia, China, France, Britain, India, Pakistan and many others have it, but not North Korea? It is a travesty of logic. The US decides who will have the bomb and who should be prevented from having it, so it makes an enemy of those who want the bomb, and those they would rather did not have the bomb.
They are not concerned for a moment that North Korea will send a ballistic missile into Washington or New York. It will not attack the United States. It would be suicide, and they know that. They are concerned that it will give the North Korean government parity with the South Korean government, which is underwritten by the United States. It is an internal problem, not an international one. The United States has made it an international problem. They are making the problem of who holds nuclear missiles and who does not more complicated than it need be.
America is a young nation. It is only a very short time ago that it was born as a nation. It is like a big 18-year-old with huge massive forearms telling the others what to do. The US cannot go on doing that and then wonder why it is not liked. America is feared and disliked all over the world. I do not mean by every country. Britons like America. but all over the Arab world, because of its support for Israel, by China and the others, by the ex-communist world, America is disliked and distrusted because it is big, strong, and a bully. It has invaded more countries than any other nation since the Second World War.
It believes that it has been the upholder of the free world, but it is not the only free nation in the world. America sees itself as the only country that works and fights for freedom. It's not true. Among others, Russia fought for the freedom and lost 25 million people fighting for that freedom. But as soon as it had succeeded, it became the enemy of the United States.
It is as my master said, the world is being presented with the absurd choice between freedom and justice. Choose which you are going to have. Choose the modern, developed, American-type competitive world, and you get a degree of freedom. Never mind about the justice, it is not important. That is a travesty of the truth. You cannot have freedom unless you fight and work for justice. That is what America has to do. That is what you have to do. That is what Maitreya will do.
Humanity as a whole will have to go back and start all over again. Where did we go wrong? Start from the beginning of the industrial age, for example, and think again about the distribution of food and raw materials. Think about how we can do it more equitably. The advice will be there. The techniques are ready to be given. All we have to do is say yes, but I think Americans will find it quite difficult.
Today, the Western developed nations wonder why there is so much crime. It is because there is so much division. Through market forces, it is inevitable that a few people get very rich and a large number of people remain poor. The gap gets wider and wider, and, as Maitreya said in message number 81, the rich parade their wealth before the poor. This brings envy, hatred, resentment, and crime. If the world had a more equitable distribution of goods, there would be very little crime. That concludes Benjamin Creme's comments.
The Master's article from the June 2005 Share International magazine is titled Man's Inheritance, and it reassures us that the future for humanity is a bright one. It begins.
When the dust has settled on the present world situation, a very interesting picture will present itself to the perceptive viewer. It will be a picture which in many respects runs contrary to the general understanding and apprehensions of many today.
It is true that there are many dangerous tensions and divisions which need insight and care to resolve. There are also many problems which defy men's wisdom to overcome, and which need an entirely new approach, so far lacking. Equally, however, there are many signs of progress and a new realization on the part of men, many instances of a new and mature wisdom in tackling the difficulties and uncertainties which surround them. The panorama of life is not flat and one-dimensional, but is a changing arena of stratified events, moving simultaneously and in many directions.
Thus it is necessary to observe the main and general trends to understand the true happenings of the time. When one can do so, a different picture emerges of the present world scene and its probable outcome. Far from fulfilling the fears of so many today, the future, we believe, offers men the greatest possibility of progress and growth of consciousness that, as a race, they have ever enjoyed.
Nothing like the coming opportunity has ever been presented to men. Never have so many been ready to respond to that felicitous time. Never have we, your elder brothers, been so sure of the outcome, and so firm in our resolve to work with men and to aid them in every way we can. We approach our task not lightly, but light of heart and eager of mind, as we enter your lives to teach and to tend.
We invite you to listen to what we have to say, and to work with us on your behalf. In this way you will make fewer mistakes and avoid blind alleys. Thus will the work of change and reconstruction be unhindered and sure, and thus can all men take their places at our side and learn the arts of peace and love.
We are entering your lives not solely for men's guidance, but also as a step in our own evolution. Nevertheless, our main effort will be spent in helping men overcome the difficulties and mistakes of the past, and to make the best use of the opportunities presented to them as the new era unfolds.
We have every confidence that men in their turn will show themselves to be apt and responsive pupils, that the light of knowledge and wisdom that we bring will find resonance in their hearts and minds, that when justice has brought blessed peace, men will awaken to the ancient truths again, and see that all men are one, now and forever, and, following that banner, will transform gladly and quickly the fabric of life on earth into the shining vision which we know to be man's inheritance.
And that's our program for today. If you have any questions or would like to know more about the World Teacher Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, please call us on 0636461001 or visit the website share-international.org.
To inquire about Share International magazine subscriptions, books by Benjamin Creme, or our monthly free of charge newsletter, the number is 042341133, or write to P.O. Box 9576 Wellington.
Thank you for listening to us on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM, and please tune into our next World Teacher program on Saturday the 19th of March at the usual time of 10 a.m.
You can listen again to this program and previous ones by visiting our website at share-international-nz.info and click on the radio tab.